G'day gamers, Ranger Tony here with another Pathfinder Kingmaker tutorial video. So I had one of you guys leave a comment on a recent video. I'm not going to put their name up just for privacy reasons, but they asked me a question which I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here. They said, which 3 heroes would I pick to do a Beneath the Stolen Lands playthrough that could get you to level 45 to 50? So this got me thinking, and I came up with 4 options. The vanilla, a sneaky lawyer option, a silly Monty Python-esque option, and my Ranger Tony option. So the vanilla option first, and I have nothing against vanilla. I love vanilla, the flavor. I think it's great. What I'm going with here is, if you look at the way they recommend you should make any party in an RPG, I don't know if they use these terms, but I like to think of them as, you need a party with smash, sneak, nuke, and heals. Okay, so smash is your physical damage, hitting things, shooting things, what have you. Sneak is trickery, basically, finding and removing traps, opening locks, that type of stuff. It can include stealth, but in this case it doesn't really have to. Nuke is your offensive spell damage, and heals is your healing and defensive spells. So this actually matches really well with the 4 original Dungeons & Dragons character types. The fighter was your smash, the thief, which they call rogue these days, was your sneak, the wizard for your nukes, and the cleric for your heals. Now, hopefully you can see a little bit of a problem with this, because that's 4 classes, and we've said 3 heroes. Now, there's 2 things that we should consider. 1, with sneak, you don't need to use a rogue in Pathfinder Kingmaker. Okay, so if for sneak, all we're talking about is not sneak attack, but just trickery, remove traps, open locks, stuff like that, then the trickery skill can be taken by anybody. It's not limited to rogues only. And number 2, for nukes and heals, there is a bit of overlap, because nukes is generally what we think of as arcane spells, spells for wizards and sorcerers and that type of thing. And heals is generally considered to be divine spells, spells for clerics and druids and other divine spellcasters. But there's actually a lot of overlap. Some arcane spells can do limited healing, and some divine spells can do damage. In fact, some can do a lot of damage. So where does that leave us? Well, this vanilla party, I recommend the following. Number 1, a fighter. Now, you can choose any fighter archetype you want here. They will all work. This is going to be your primary damage dealer, and I would recommend making this the first character in your party so that they get the extra ability points. Okay? Second party member is a rogue. Now, I say any rogue except for the Eldritch Scoundrel will work well. The Eldritch Scoundrel, even though he has spells, so he has some of that nuke, it's not quite as effective in this team as the other rogues. And then finally, a cleric. So any cleric archetype except for the Ecclesiathurge, because the Ecclesiathurge is a little bit weak. And you should also, in this party, everyone should stick to their roles. The fighter, up front, protecting the other 2 where possible, drawing all the melee damage to him. The rogue, hanging back a bit or to the edges, ready to dart in with a sneak attack and then get away, because you don't want them in the middle of combat. They don't have the health for it. and then a cleric at the rear ready to heal. Now, a lot of people want to play a cleric as a bit of a fighter as well, but you leave yourself in a really sticky situation if you do that. You end up that if your cleric starts taking too much damage, he has to heal himself and can't heal anyone else. And, you know, deity of your choice forbid, if the cleric gets killed or knocked down, you have no healing ability. So keep your fighter up front, your rogue in the shadows or on the flanks, ready to come in with a sneak attack, and your cleric at the rear. And you will do reasonably well. Okay, so I am back with a sample of this vanilla party. We have our fighter. He has strength of 18, dex of 14, and constitution of 16. He is lawful good. And then the abilities that I took for him, I took armor focus, I took power attack, and I took cleave. Actually, I also, before that, I took knowledge world, law nature, and perception as his 3 skills. Now, with his feats, you'll notice I didn't pick a weapon focus. I left that. And there's a reason for that. In Beneath the Stolen Lands, if you start this and say, okay, here's my character and I want him to be a battle axe wielder. Right. And so you start it, you give him a battle axe, you give him weapon focus in battle axe, and then you get in here and you find that there's no good battle axes at Honest Guy, and you get through to like level 30 and you haven't found a decent battle axe in the game. The only battle axe you've been able to get is the Masterwork version, which Honest Guy has, and that's it. And you're screwed, right? So what you do is you don't pick your weapon focus at level 1. You leave it to level 2. You come in here and you have a look at what Honest Guy has got in his weapons. And I will admit, I just briefly had a look at this. The best weapon that I can see in here, there's a giant mace, a giant Bane heavy mace +2. That's pretty good. There's no like flaming weapons. The Adamantine Icy Burst Star Knife does an extra 1d6 of cold damage, but Star Knives are not weapons in my opinion. So we're going to forget about that. There is a Flaming Falchion. Actually, that's a pretty good option. The Falchion isn't a bad weapon. It's two-handed. And I wasn't going to make this a two-handed fighter, but he's a straight fighter, so we can do anything we need to with him. So that might be a good option, but the other one that I found that was really interesting was right down here at the bottom. You'll notice that there were no decent... there's a Battle Axe +1 here. And there's a Masterwork Battle Axe, of course, but is there anything else? Is there Frost Battle Axes? No. Is there Flaming Battle Axes? No. Is there... what else we got down here? We've got a Shock Sling. Yeah. We've got a Sling Staff, and then look at this wonderful thing here. The Speed Bleed Spear +2. So it does an extra 1d6 of hit points of damage per round. So if I build this guy as a spear wielder, so just use a normal spear, that's the weapon that I get focus in. I'll just buy a Masterwork one now to begin with and train him up in using the spear. He can eventually afford this. It's 32,000 gold. He can buy that and can do good amounts of damage with it. So for your fighter, if you're going to have a fighter in Beneath the Stolen Lands, don't necessarily pick their weapon right at the start. Have a look at what's available and do that. So that's my fighter. I then also have a Knife Master Rogue. Now, I've built him with Knowledge World, Use Magic Devices, Trickery, Stealth, Mobility, and Perception. Now, I said mobility really isn't very useful, and it isn't, but it seemed better than any of the other. Like, I'd get a better stat in that than if I took, say, Law Nature, where I get just +1, or Law Religion, or Knowledge Arcana. Persuasion's useless. Athletics is useless. Mobility is useless. It's really just Perception, Stealth, Trickery, and Use Magic Devices, and then these 4 here. So I took what I could there, but maxed out his Dex to 18, and then just maxed out his Con with whatever I had left. He's been given a bow for some reason, even though he's a Knife Master, but it did drop a Punch Dagger here, so I'm going to give him that and leave the crossbow as a backup weapon, and we'll probably buy him another dagger, because I also took 2-weapon fighting and dodge as his 2 abilities. So he'll be able to do a lot of damage if he can rush in and get people using sneak attacks. And then our third character, and I did go a little off course here, but not a lot. This is a Crusader Cleric. The way I went a little bit off course was the deity that I picked for him. Oh, first of all, stats. 18 Wisdom, and then I put the rest into Constitution and Strength evenly. I didn't bother with Dexterity for this. The deity that I picked for him is Gorham, and Gorham's favored weapon is the Greatsword. So we get to be able to use a Greatsword, and I chose the War Domain as his domain selection. So the feats that I then took was Extra Channel Cleric, Combat Casting, and he gets a bonus feat as a Crusader, which I took as Weapon Focusing Greatsword. So he's going to have a Greatsword. He's going to be able to do a bit of damage with it, but I would still keep him in the back line, ready to dart forward and attack if he needs to, but keep him out of combat in general so that he can heal as needed. He will be given a great sword by default, so we're going to get rid of these other weapons, and that's going to be his only weapon, is his great sword. And eventually we need to get him some better armor than that. A medium, like a breastplate would be good, because he can take medium armor. And eventually this fighter I would go to full plate. So that's my vanilla. Let's go and have a look at my second party. Okay, so the second option that I've given here is my sneaky sort of lawyery option. No offense to the lawyers out there. The sneaky part of it is, well, we originally said 3 heroes. See where I'm going with this? I recommend first a standard Ranger, Spectre's Archer, with the archery combat style. A ranged Sacred Huntsmaster Inquisitor, see my other build from a few days ago, and a Sylvan Sorcerer as the 3 members of this party. So, why these 3? Of course, animal companions. So technically, 3 heroes, a party of 6. Now the Ranger will have to wait until level 4 to get their animal companion, but the other 2 get theirs at first level. You're going to need to give the Ranger or all of the party Trickery, so that you've got someone to do the sneak side of things. But you've got everyone able to stand back and do damage with ranged weapons or spells. You've got the Inquisitor who can do the heals, the Sylvan Sorcerer who can do the nuke, and your animal companions can also be doing the smash. The animal companions that I would recommend are my 3 favourites, the Smilodon, the bear, and the leopard. Give them to whoever you want, that doesn't really matter. I would really like it if you could actually rename your pets so that you could have, if you could, I would have 3 Smilodons and be done with it, but you can't. So the plan here would be naturally to have your animal companions engage in melee while your heroes hang back and cast spells or use ranged weapons to do the damage. You probably want to leave your Sacred Huntsmaster move forward a little bit to be a bit closer to the animal companions so that he can heal as needed. But that's really this party. It's fairly simple, but as I said, it's a bit sneaky, a bit cheaty, because I've gone slightly outside the original intended purpose, I guess, but it is still just 3 characters. Let's have a look at how that build would look. Okay, we are back with my sneaky party. So we have our ranger, standard ranger build. Nothing special here. Took trickery, perception, law, nature, knowledge world, knowledge arcana as his skills. Abilities, precise shot, point blank shot. Favorite enemy is goblins. Pretty straightforward ranger build. Nothing spectacular there. This is pretty much exactly my Sacred Huntsmaster build, except because I've got less points here, I went full up 18 on Dex, 16 on Wisdom, and didn't have any points left to put anywhere else, but that's fine. The deity I chose was Abadar, whose weapon is the light crossbow, so we got given that, so I'm going to use that rather than go to a heavy crossbow or a longbow. We were given a longbow. The skills I took were point blank shot and precise shot, so I can use those correctly, and I took a bear as my animal companion and the protection domain. The spells that I have chosen are Divine Favor and Cure Light Wounds, the standard ones that I take. And then the Sylvan Sorcerer, full points into, so Charisma was the racial modifier I used there. Put that up to 18, 14 in Constitution and 14 in Dex, just to give us a little bit of health and a little bit of AC, etc. I chose Use Magic Device, Law, Nature, and Knowledge Arcana for his skills. We chose Point Blank Shot, Precise Shot, and Spell Penetration as our spells. And we chose a Leopard as our animal companion. The spells that I chose then were Magic Missile and Snowball. So, I mean, you've got everything there. You've got your animal companions to do the smash, plus, you know, these got, well, all 3 of them are rocking bows. You've got sneak, the Inquisitor's doing most of our, sorry, the Ranger's doing most of the sneak work. You've got nuke from the Sorcerer, and you've got heals from the Inquisitor. So it's a pretty good party, would work quite well. Let's have a look at our next option. So our third option is my silly option, or what I'm calling my Monty Python option. It is, so you've probably heard me refer to one class in a lot of my videos as being the jack of all trades and the master of none. So there is a class that has a little bit of smash, a little bit of sneak, a little bit of nuke, and a little bit of heals. And it's the Bard. So 3 Bards might do okay. Now, this is probably the least successful I would expect of these 3 of the 4 options that I'm picking. The biggest problem we have is that the Bards aren't really good at anything. They can do a lot of stuff, but none of it great. I would actually recommend taking all of the Bard archetypes, not the plain Bard, but the other 3. And working all of the special abilities that they have together. So your Flame Dancer would be your main melee damage dealer. They're all going to be melee builds, though. Your Archaeologist will have some of your sneak abilities, although they probably all will. And the Thundercaller is your heavy nuke. But they've all got the ability to do a bit of heals and everything like that. So everyone can do a bit of everything, but you're really going to have to work to get this group to survive, because you're not going to have the hit points. None of them are tanks. They're all a little bit flaky. So you're really going to have to work hard to support each other to make this work. So let's have a look at what a build could look like. Okay, so we are back with this build, and really I'm not happy with this at all. It probably won't be very good at all. It's the first time I've really done much bard building in Pathfinder Kingmaker. So my first character is a flame dancer. I was able to give him a little bit better points than most of the others. So 16 for charisma, which was the racial stat that I picked, and then 14 for strength, 16 for dex, and 14 for con. I went for law, nature, law, religion, perception, stealth, and use magic devices. Actually, stealth was a mistake. I meant to click on trickery there, so I wouldn't use stealth. I would have used trickery. The abilities, I chose weapon finesse and 2-weapon fighting. In fact, I've done that for all of them, just because I feel they need to be using 2 weapons, because they're not going to have much chance to hit anything anyway. They're really not going to work very well, but they've got their inspire courage and those sorts of things that can help. The spells I picked for this guy were Cure Light Wounds and Remove Fear. For my archaeologist, Indiana, yeah, okay, I'm not sure if that's how you spell it right, but probably isn't. Knowledge, Arcana, Knowledge World, Perception, Trickery, and use magic devices is what I gave him. Again, weapon finesse and 2-weapon fighting. Most of the stuff that these extra archetypes of bards get happens later on. It's not at the first level. It's at these further on parts where they actually start to diverge a little bit more. So you're not going to, at the first few levels, you're not really going to see much different in any of these characters. For spells, for him, I chose Cause Fear and Cure Light Wounds. And my last character, the Thundercaller, I called him AC/DC, Thunderstruck. Again, these two guys, their stats are the same. 14 for Strength, 16 for Dex, and then 16 for Charisma, which is also their racial stat. Knowledge, Arcana, Law, Nature, Perception, Trickery, Use Magic Device. So the big thing here is I've given Use Magic Device to all of them. I've given Trickery to all of them. I've given Perception to all of them. So that Jack of all trades, Master of none, they've all got weapon finesse and 2-weapon fighting. And the idea here is that I will probably give one of them dual short swords, another one dual hand axes, and the other one dual light maces. They're all finessable, but one's doing piercing damage, one's doing slashing damage, one's doing bludgeoning damage. So we're spreading all out the damage types out so that we don't get stuck just all doing piercing damage and not being able to hurt some, opponent that's immune to piercing damage. So spread it all around a little bit. But yeah, it's a very silly option. It's really not going to work, but they can do everything that you need. They can do a little bit of damage. They can do some heals. They can do some nukes, and they can do the trickery stuff that they need to do. So yeah, now let's have a look at my option. So the final option, Ranger Tony's option. With everything you've already presented, you've probably guessed what my option is. We've already broken the rules technically once. Let's just do it my way. 3 standard archery rangers. Animal companions to do the smash, and smashing from a distance with the bows from the rangers. All the heroes can be doing sneak with trickery. How do we get the nuke and heals though? Well, if you've seen my full archery ranger build, you know that I don't actually recommend taking the ranger healing spells that they get, because they get them too late to do much good. By 4th level, a Cure Light Wounds does 1d8 points of healing. It's nothing, right? You're already, 30 or 40 hit points. It's just not enough, and you get 2 of those a day each. No, it's just not gonna cut it. At that point, you want cure moderate wounds or cure critical wounds. You need to be able to cure at least half of your hit points in one go to be effective at healing in this. On top of that, none of the spells that the ranger gets are all that nukey. Most of them are just buffs to your natural abilities or buffs to your animal companion. And don't get me wrong, the animal companion buffs are nice. But how are we going to get around this problem? We don't have the nukes, we don't have the heals. Use magic device. There's a bunch of skills that you just don't use in Beneath the Stolen Lands. So athletics, mobility, and persuasion you definitely don't need. And stealth, it's up to you if you want to use it or not. I tend not to use it. So that means that all of your heroes only really need... If I give all of my heroes perception, trickery, and use magic device, they've got 2 slots left, which I can spread out amongst knowledge arcana, knowledge world, law nature, and law religion between the 3 companions. That will cover all of that with some double ups just to be safe. So not a problem at all. We're covered for everything. If we want heavy damage dealing spells, we've got wands that we can use with use magic device. Rangers can already use any of the healing scrolls without a problem. You can at first level as a ranger, you can use cure critical wounds or even a scroll of heal. Unfailing every single time, it'll just work because technically you are a divine spellcaster. But a lot of the other divine spells, like Hold Person, for example, you just can't use a divine scroll of Hold Person without using Use Magic Device. So it's a little bit weird there in that, but you can use most of the healing spells as scrolls, not a problem at all. Plus, there's plenty of wands and stuff that you can get, and you'll get heaps of potions while you're down there. So I'm just going to really quickly show you. You've seen my standard Ranger builds before in my other videos, but I'm just going to really quickly do that now to finish off this episode. So be right back. Okay, so we are back with Ranger Tony's party of 3 heroes. Look, it's my standard Ranger build, so there's not going to be too much original here that you haven't seen before. Strength 14, Dex with the racial bonus to 18, Constitution to 14, and Wisdom to 14. I chose Knowledge World, Law Nature, Perception, Trickery, and Use Magic Device. Abilities, Point Blank Shot, Precise Shot, Favorite Enemies of Goblin. Not going to choose his animal companion yet, but this one would be probably a Smilodon. Our second character, I've called Forrester. 18 into Dex using the racial bonus, 14 to Con, 14 to Wisdom. Chose Knowledge Arcana, Law Religion, Perception, Trickery, Use Magic Devices. Standard build. The only one I did a little, and again, Point Blank Shot, Precise Shot, and I chose Reptilian Humanoids. The only one I did a little bit differently here then was Hunter, the third one. So rather than giving him any wisdom at all, I gave him just 14 strength, 18 dex, 14 con. You don't need wisdom if you don't want to cast spells. It doesn't mean you can't still use scrolls. It just means you can't memorize and learn and cast your own innate ranger spells, but you can still cast them from scrolls. I chose Knowledge Arcana and Knowledge World because they were, well, I didn't choose the wisdom-based ones because I didn't have the bonus in wisdom. Perception, Trickery, and Use Magic Device. Again, Point Blank Shot, Precise Shot. Favorite enemy is animals, only because I called him Hunter. I probably would have picked Undead otherwise. And Smilodon, Bear, Leopard would be the 3 animal companions that I would pick. So there you go, guys. That is my answer to the question, what 3 companions, what 3 heroes would I take into Beneath the Stolen Lands? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and share it with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest episodes, and I will see you for the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.